So you've got your show name, you've figured out your audience. Now, what is your podcast actually going to sound like? Hi, I'm Mark Steadman and I run the podcast hosting company Podiant, and I want to bring you actions that you can apply to your podcast today. Now we're going to talk about the format of your show. So maybe you've got your name and your audience figured out, but how is the show actually going to sound? The format you choose doesn't have to be set in stone. You can change it and you can experiment, but the format that you choose will govern almost every aspect of your podcast. So it's really important to have a good think about it. Think about what makes you most comfortable. Do you like to speak to the same person each week, or are you comfortable finding new people to talk to? Do you like speaking off the cuff, or would you rather work from a script? These kind of things work across fiction, non-fiction, comedy, entertainment. In fiction and comedy, you've got things like scripted narrative, mockumentary styles, found footage, recording live events. So let's think about the formats that you can choose from. So you've got the regular two-hander, which is possibly the most popular and easiest format to get into. It's you and a regular co-host, often talking about a particular subject matter. They're predictable, they're comfortable, and they're relatable. Good examples of this: Back to Work with Merlin Mann and Dan Benjamin, Answer Me This by Helen Zaltzman and Ollie Mann, and then Upgrade with Jason Snell and Mike Hurley. So things to consider in the two-hander: you need a good rapport with your co-host. You want to record maybe one, two, maybe even a couple more pilots to make sure that you've figured out each other's rhythms and you've got that spark going, and they're not just someone who's perhaps funny or interesting down the pub, that they can actually do it down the microphone as well. So next up, let's look at the host and the guest. This is you interviewing people on a particular subject, gaining from their expertise and their knowledge, and then in return, they get to plug their stuff. Good examples of this: Recode Decode with Cara Swisher, You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. And then a slightly different one, Everything is Alive, which is a Radiotopia podcast in which someone interviews an inanimate object and talks about their life experiences, like a can of Coke. So there you want to think about how the guest brings value, and possibly the reverse as well. It's hard work finding guests every week, every fortnight, every month. So think about how you're going to work that in. Also think about the interview shows that you like. What's the ratio between how much the guest speaks and how much you speak? Next up, you got the narrative format, which feels a bit more like the traditional radio as it pivoted into podcasting, the sort of NPR style shows. Often multiple voices, often using field recordings. Good examples of this that aren't serial might include things like The Stoop, which is a podcast about the black diaspora. And then you've got 20,000 Hertz, which is a sort of 99% invisible podcast, but all about sound. These, of course, take a lot of production time, and you need to bear that in mind. It's probably best done in seasons. And a good cautionary tale for this kind of format is to look at the podcast Reply All. They had some phenomenally interesting stories, really ambitious storytelling, but there's only so much that they could do before it became a little bit unsustainable. So some of the formats you can think about: you've got the sort of off-the-cuff one mic format. If you're going to do something like that, then the key is to prepare as much as you can, use bullet points and make it sound off the cuff. Then you've got the scripted format, things like Law with Aaron Mankey. These sound more polished. They're probably slower paced. They might mix in a little bit of background audio or music. And then you've got things like the short briefing, like Pod News, great for smart speakers. Roundtable formats like the SMR podcast. Guest panels like the Bugle or Doug Loves Movies. And then a sort of live to disc, like a drive time radio show like the Morning Stream. And you may have already decided on your format, but think about what inspired you to start your podcast in the first place, and also what's going to be sustainable, but what excites you, what fits your subject matter, but also what fits your personality. So hopefully those are a few useful things that you can think about when picking a show format. There's loads more resources that you can get from us over at podiant.co/learn, where you'll also be able to pick up a free 14-day trial of our podcast hosting service. So do check it out, podiant.co. You'll also find us on Twitter at PodiantHQ. My name is Mark Steadman. Thank you very much for watching this. If you want more videos like this, more practical advice that you can apply to your podcast today, then subscribe to this channel and there will be lots more videos like this. So until the next one, take care.